Happy holidays from the Tyrolean Alps. It's a beautiful snow-filled background here outside of Innsbruck, Austria. Not as much snow here at the track, but we've had some great racing. A very busy opening day of action. The third and final race is women's singles. Run one in the books, Lisa Schulte, the world champion from Austria. She's loving the fact that this track is a lot longer than the former track. She's in third place. Julia Taubitz, last week's winner in Lillehammer, for Germany, in second place, but all of the field of 20 are trailing by a wide margin. This woman, Madeline Egle from here in Austria on her home track, in search of World Cup win number 13. As you can see, not as snowy around the track here, as they're hoping to get that ski center open at some point near the finish area. Warming up, still some more. It's been above freezing all day. This is the warmest point all day. The ice remaining in a pretty good condition for sliding, although late in run number one, certainly the ice took its toll on sliders 25 through 30. Start record and track record, both set earlier this afternoon in Austria by the first run leader. So let's get ready for a fun conclusion here. 3 races on the opening day. 90 sleds have made their way down the track. Only 20 remain, run number 2 of the women's singles competition. Hi again, everyone. I'm Tim Singer. This is a track that was originally built as a natural bond for the 1964 Olympic Games. Refrigerated track came along about 10 years later in preparation for the 1976 Olympics. Innsbruck has been discussed as a possible, or had been discussed as a possible backup location for the 2026 Olympic Games if the track in Cortina, Italy was not finished. From what I understand, Innsbruck is no longer in that running, and favorably, things are looking good for Italy as they are slightly ahead of schedule in their construction plan. But back to Innsbruck, the challenges start early with a start curve not as challenging as the old one off of the lower ramp. Right there was where the old start curve was. But then they make their way down to the Kreisel. The Kreisel, traditionally a little more picturesque than it is challenging. Really, the challenges begin here, curves 8 and 9. You've got to be in curve 10 perfectly. You usually will exit okay, but if you don't exit really well, then the problems happen and they multiply here in the lower S's. Good look at our Schlitten camera, the POV into the tunnel. And our thanks as always to our social media team and our FIL production crew for providing these wonderful pictures. So welcome to our viewers around the world, especially those who have stayed with us all morning and afternoon. Caitlyn Nash will lead things off as one of 3 Canadians in today's race, the only to qualify for run number 2. And after you get through the first few, it's really the nations that have dominated in this sport for so many years. Germany, Austria, the United States, Italy, Latvia, and Natalie Maag has been carrying that Swiss flag pretty proudly all alone over the past several seasons. There are the Swiss spectators, the Maag bunch that have traveled to what will be the closest race to their home all season long. Again, as we mentioned in run number 1, a slight possibility, at least according to the forecast, of some snow today. So far, fortunately, it has held off to not affect the racing. Caitlyn Nash kicks things off. Run number 2, the final run of the day. Caitlyn's favorite track is Winterberg in northern Germany, in the Hochsauerland. We will be visiting Winterberg or as some people call it, Rainberg. Don't repeat that. We'll be visiting that next month. A big sports background for Caitlyn. Caitlyn Nash, who played soccer when she was younger, also loved skiing, snowboarding, mountain biking, a good British Columbia adventurer, and also took part in gymnastics. Clean exit of the Kreisel and curve 8. Let's see how she negotiates curve number 9 here. Not bad for Caitlyn Nash, 21 years old, from Whistler. She's a little farther down the track now here in the labyrinth. 117 kilometers an hour. That translates to a miles per hour of 73.1, a 2-run combined time of 134.01, and her second run time of 46.96 is a hair better, about 0.08 of a second better than her first heat.
Vielleicht kann man das wieder korrigieren, vielleicht kann man das wieder einblenden. Vielen, vielen Dank. 1:34:01, also die Gesamtzeit von Caitlyn Nash aus Kanada. Weiter geht's mit
Ashley Farquharson, the first of 4 from the United States in run number 2 to qualify for a second heat. Ashley finished 4th at this World Cup race last year. She will not repeat that here, but with a good run, she could move up 3 or 4 spots in the standings. If it were a sprint weekend, top 15 would be the goal. Little fun fact about Ashley Farquharson, she says she's never received a traffic ticket. So if she puts down 74 miles per hour here on the track, and she did that on one of the back roads in the Adirondack Mountains of New York, she indeed would receive a ticket. Oh, she had problems in the exact same spot as she did in run number 1. Curve 9 has been her nemesis this week. And as a result, she falls behind the Canadian. She gives up any shot of moving up in the standings. It's just one of those mysteries in the sport of luge. I should say really it's one of those commonplaces, is the mystery of certain curves to certain athletes who have trouble figuring it out. Famously, I think of Felix Locke in the chicane in Lake Placid. Despite being the best in the world for so many years, he could never figure out that corner. Ashley clearly with problems in curve 9 this week in Innsbruck, for an athlete who's done well on this track in the past.
Maybe next week.
Next week being Oberhof, we'll see how Ashley can do. Zana Kaluma, the first from Latvia to go here in run number 2, 20 years old. She's been on the national team for 2 years. Zana had 1 Nations Cup victory in her career. That was last year in doubles. Start time is the 3rd fastest of the 3 that have gone down so far. Caitlyn Nash still carrying the first fastest start time, the fastest down time in the early going. But Kaluma within 200ths of a second, not a perfect exit of 9. Let's see how Rubenis and company have set up these sleds. 200 still, so it's pretty even right now. Canada and Latvia on the lower part of the track. Advantage Latvia. Zana opens up a little more on Nash. Down at the bottom, it's Latvia over Canada and the United States very early in run number 2.
Von Lettland geht's nach Südtirol, nach Italien.
Still add, we have a couple of other Latvians getting ready. Latvians who have earned several podiums on the World Cup. See Italian spectators right there in the middle. It's not a far travel if you live in Südtirol to come to Tyrol. And Nina Zoeggeler, one of the many northern Italian contingent racing this weekend on what amounts to their home track for now. And I think it's safe to say, even when that track was opened in Cesana for the 2006 Olympics, for many of the Italian lugers, Innsbruck remained the home track. It's much closer. Innsbruck hosts a World Cup almost every year. Through the Kreisel, we'll see if and when Nina can catch Zana 3/100ths of a second back. If she keeps it clean here through 9 and 10, she should be in the green sooner rather than later. Staying just about 200ths back. Close race right now between these two. But she just could not find the time. Not perfect lines, not awful driving. This will be really interesting. Again, she's the 94th sled to come down the track in the last 6 hours or so. All competitive runs, and the weather is not perfect for the track to stay fast all day. 10 degrees cooler, maybe so. I'm not insinuating anything yet, I'm just wondering. This guy's had a great day in the mud. Emma Erickson, the second of the 4 from the United States in today's competition. Looked like her had a little bit of an issue for Emma in the settle, trying to get her hands in. Maybe we'll get another look at that. She has a big advantage right there, as you see. Only the 4th fastest start time, but that 1/10 of a second was the advantage she took into run number 2. 21-year-old, youngest of the American women. Still holding about that 1/10 of a second lead. Here we are, curve 9. Really well done. So all things being equal, she should build on that lead now, and she is. 14/100ths. Still a tricky part of the track, but a big breakthrough for Emma Erickson here in week number 2. Lost a little time down at the bottom, but she holds on to her spot. So for Erickson, no worse than a top 16. That will be an improvement over her opening weekend. In this, her first full season on the World Cup. A little bit of a relief. You can talk to us, Emma. American fans, parents in the bleachers. And now we have Barbara Allmaier. Barbara undefeated so far this season in Nations Cup qualifying. It's usually a good sign that you're going to do well in the full field race the next day. And that was the case with Barbara last week with a career best 4th place finish. But she had some issues here in run number 1 on her home track, finding herself in 15th place after run number 1. 1200ths up on the American. If she has a better run here, she will not only hold on to her spot, Barbara could move up a couple of positions. In fact, only 4/1000ths of a second separate the 3 sleds, Barbara, and the 2 to follow. This is really well done. Here's what we'll compare it to. Barbara had a 46.777 in run number 1. As See what she can do here. Admittedly, later in the day, it's a 46.675, so that's a 1/10 of a second better. It would have put her only a couple of spots farther up in the rankings, but not bad at all. She leads the field by 4/10 of a second, so that's a very good stat. More than the comparison of first run, second run. It's how big her lead is right now over the other early starters here. And as I mentioned, the next two are within only 4 thousandths of a second ahead of Allmaier after run number 1. So this could pick off a couple. Now Melina Fischer is next to go. First of the 4 Germans in today's race. Melina last week finished 15th in Lillehammer. Last year finished 16th here in Innsbruck. And currently she's one better than that. She's 14th after run number 1. But she'll have all she can handle here to compete with the great run just put down by young Barbara Allmaier of Austria. 800ths up right now for Fischer. Opening up that lead. Really nice job here. Really good exit for Melina Fischer, the baby of the German team, 20 years old. Is it enough? Here's the split time at the finish. Great run. Fastest run of the heat. Fastest overall for sure. 133.324. 1400ths up on Allmaier. It's Germany ahead of Austria, USA, Latvia, and Italy. Those are the top 5. 7 have come down. 13 remain here in the second and final run.
Deutschland auf 1, Österreich auf 2, USA auf 3.
Ready at the top now, Kendia Aparjode. Kendia's advantage over Fischer was only 2 thousandths of a second. Perfection is needed to maintain that lead. So far, she's lost a 1/10 of a second here at the top, as she only had the 7th fastest start time compared to Fischer's fastest start time. She'll need to start reversing that trend here and now, or it will continue to bleed the time away. 1300ths now. Aparjode looking pretty good here through 9 and 10, and now cutting into the lead a little bit. So she's made a case at least for only dropping 1 position. Can she dig into it a little more? No, she drops just 1 spot. Pretty good bottom part of the track for Kendia Aparjode, who could have fallen back into 3rd, maybe even 4th place. But she does push it back up. Didn't get into the green, but cut into the German lead down at the bottom.
Melina Fischer, Deutschland, bleibt auf 1, Aparjode auf 2, Allmaier auf 3. Aber jetzt kommt schon die nächste Österreicherin. Wieder eine der ganz jungen Athletinnen.
Kendia done for the day. We'll hope to make a case to take part in the relay tomorrow, but that will be between she and her teammate Alina Bota, still to come. Dorothy Schwarz, the second of 4 Austrians in today's competition, born in Innsbruck, has spent her whole life here in the Tyrol region, part of the military program. Dorothy lists as one of her two favorite tracks Lillehammer, and why not? She had a great showing there last week to open up the season, a podium in the Nations Cup, a 9th place finish in the World Cup.
Fischer. Also die ist wirklich stark gefahren, bin mir sicher, die kommt noch.
Quarter of a second back, looking at 4th place at the moment on her home track. Her teammate is in 3rd, Allmaier, and it is 4th place, 133.617. Melina making a very good move here. Fischer moving up 3 positions, actually moving up, 2 spots, as she picked off the 2 women that were within a couple of thousandths of a second of her. The gap will get a little bigger now, starting with Sandra Robatscher of Italy up next. And Jackie Forgan quickly writes in with a question on our YouTube chat saying, what are the other tracks in contention should the Cortina track in Italy not be ready? And Jack, the answer is a short answer to that. Innsbruck was discussed, especially because of the city and the ability to really easily house a race. St. Moritz, Switzerland made its case, as did Lake Placid, New York. Both of them obviously have their advantages and their disadvantages. With Lake Placid, it's distance away from the Olympics. With St. Moritz, it's the natural track and handling all of those sleds in bobsled, skeleton, and luge. But we will cross that bridge when we come to it. Sandra Robatscher on the course, and her Cortina track, not that far from South Tyrol, in the beautiful Dolomites of northern Italy. They are ahead of schedule, so they say, with their construction. Sandra just 2/100ths of a second up on Melina Fischer right now. And here she exits curve 10 and falls behind the German. This is going to be very tight now, not perfect here on the past few curves. So 2nd place, Melina moves up several spots. It's tough to state enough how important this is for the young German Melina Fischer, because after you get the A seed, your best of the Germans, the young athletes in this powerful German program often get shuttled in and out of the World Cup. They really have to put up or shut up, and Melina is doing just that so far today as she's moved up several positions. Sandra with good form there, but a little too close for comfort. Now Alina Bota, who if nothing else is in a battle with Kendia Aparjode to represent Latvia tomorrow in team relay. And Latvia week in and week out, a podium contender in that relay event. This is a nation strong in all 4 disciplines, singles and doubles. Bota with the fastest start time right now, 9.358. So that gives her better than a 1/10 of a second right now on Germany's Melina Fischer. But Melina had all of this speed down at the bottom. We have seen a lot of greens turn red. And the lead now just 8/100ths of a second. Turn 9 nice for the Latvian, who has captured 2 World Cup races in her still young career, now 500ths. This is going to be very tight here. Final few curves, this could be down to the 1,000th of a second. 4/1,000ths of a second as Bota finally knocks Fischer out of the leader box, gives herself a very good chance to race tomorrow in team relay, pending the final decision by the coaches. 4/1,000ths of a second after basically 95 seconds, 94 seconds of running in the 2 heats.
Aparjode 800 zurück, Allmaier 1400 zurück. Ganz spannendes, knappes Rennen bei den Damen.
Doing the little wait for the live shot, smile at the camera, heading to the leader box as the Latvian flags fly in the distance. Verena Hofer, the next of the Italians, staring down what could be a career best finish for her. 9th place after run number 1. That matches her best all of last season, where she had 2 9th place finishes, one of them here in Innsbruck. Now she's already fallen behind Bota, and the advantage between the two entering this run was only 0.06 of a second. Incredible how tight these times are. Back into the green now. And then back into the red, shuffling back and forth. That's what makes it a fun race for the spectators and the announcers. A little nerve-wracking for the teammates and coaches down below. 400s back, looking like advantage Latvia at this point. To the finish, Verena Hofer falls 3 spots behind Latvia, Germany, and her Italian teammate, Sandra Robatscher. Only 200 separate the two Italians as they'll make the decision on who will represent Team Italy tomorrow in team relay. Verena with the 3rd fastest start. Pretty good form there. Nice paddles on this brand new start ramp. Really takes a lot of confidence to be able to paddle hard, settle nicely on a brand new start ramp that you just do not know that well. Here's Fraebel, the second of the 4 Germans. 21 years old, from Oberhof. Her personal coach, Andi Langenhahn, one of the greats out of that Oberhof program for so many years. Andi, I believe, finished as high as 4th at the Olympic Games. Was traditionally one of the fastest at the start. A 9.394, the 4th fastest start time for Fraebel. Last year, Mirla had a 14th place finish here on the Innsbruck track. Did much better last week at the World Cup opener in Lillehammer. She was in 5th. Really nice exit here. How's the track holding out? 0.02 of a second. This is another one that's going to be very tight. The leader in the box, the sled on the track. Fraebel finds the time down at the bottom, and she takes over the lead, holding onto her spot. Mirla, no worse than a top 8. Still 2 of her German teammates set to go.
Also relativ ausgeglichene Leistung der deutschen Athletin.
Corner 9, the exit, clearly dialed in on that line. Set her up for a great bottom part of the track, where she picked up some advantage on the time on the Latvian who previously held the lead. Okay, here we go. 7 remain, 2 Germans, 2 Americans, 2 Austrians, and 1 from Switzerland. 7th place after run number 1, Olympic medalist Anna Berreiter, 25 years old. Focus on her eyes. See how Anna does with the start time. She holds only a 100th of a second on her countrywoman mate, Fraebel. Dropping a little bit there at the start, only the 7th fastest start for Anna. She has several top of the podiums in her career. 5 World Cup wins in women's singles, a couple of other trips to the top of the podium in team relay. Now she's opening up a little bit bigger of an advantage. 800ths. Merle Fraebel was very fast down here at the bottom, but it looks like advantage Berreiter, and it is by 900ths of a second. Germany 1-2-4 right now in the standings, with a Latvian third and another German getting ready to go in a little bit, second to last here in run number 2.
Ist also im schlechtesten Falle 7. beim Weltcuprennen hier in Innsbruck. Nach Anna Berreiter sehen wir Natalie Maag. Die war zeitgleich mit der US-Amerikanerin Britcher auf Position 5 mit jeweils 46.
We have 6 remaining now, so you get another look at some of the highlights of Anna Berreiter's run. Getting ready now as Norbert Locke and the German coaches and teammates watch. It's a woman from Switzerland who trains and travels and is friendly with most of this German team. In fact, Natalie and Anna are good friends. Anna with the lead down below. Natalie Maag now on course. She's made steady progress, great progress over the last 3 or 4 seasons, to become regularly one of the top 5 or 6 in women's luge. Despite being the birthplace of sliding sports, Switzerland has been surprisingly very little represented in the sport of luge. Martina Koka is a world champion back in 2016 in women's singles sprint. There have been a few men's singles lugers over the years, but Natalie really the most consistent of anyone. But struggling to catch Berreiter here as she drops 1 spot by 0.02 of a second. Anna Berreiter will move up into the top 6, or the top 5 even, and Natalie will hang on to see that she was tied with the American about to go next. So Natalie could conceivably hang on to her top 5 position. Racing is so tight here. You would think, and many people talked about with them moving the start higher up and extending these runs by 5 or 6 seconds, that the racing would not be down to the 1,000th of a second with everyone, but it has been. Looks like possibly a little bit of pain, and Natalie had some shoulder injuries over the summer. She had a hand injury. Certainly hope she's okay. She definitely looks like she's in pain, and we'll try to get an update there as we set the stage for Summer Britcher. The American tied to the 1,000th of a second after run number 1 with Natalie Maag, and just a few hundredths ahead of Anna Berreiter, who has the lead down at the bottom. Britcher 400ths up now. He actually only had a couple of thousandths on Berreiter after run number 1. Falling into the red now. Summer hoping to find some Sweeney type speed like her teammate down here at the bottom part of the track. Out of curve 10, she's dropping a little bit. This is likely a 3rd place time if she keeps it together down here at the bottom. The USA's Summer Britcher in 3rd place within a 1/10 of a second, but Anna knew it as she gets greeted by her friend Natalie Maag. It is those two from Germany and Switzerland continuing to hold the top 2 positions, with the American in 3rd place. We're looking a lot at the start replays. It's really a difficult part of this luge sport, with the paddles, the settle, and pulling off with your athleticism. Summer does it well from top to bottom. That's why the 5 World Cup victories. But Berreiter and Maag both right now in the top 5. Summer will get ready to root for her teammate Emily Sweeney, who's waiting at the top. Sweeney, a 2nd place last week in the World Cup opener in women's luge, also on the podium in the mixed team event. Emily, 31 years old, born in Maine, lived a good chunk of her childhood in Connecticut before moving not too far from Lake Placid, New York. what she calls her co-home now, along with the house she's building in Italy. Emily with the fastest start time. We'll see if she can build on that. She has been the real deal all season long. Look at this now. Already a quarter of a second. Great exit of curve 9. She could extend this to 4/10 of a second. Down here at the bottom, if she can, she'll make a serious run at the medals, but she'll need to, and it's not an extension, it is the lead. It's no worse than 4th place for Emily Sweeney, so she continues putting down the solid results to open up the season, but it's going to be a bit of a challenge to jump onto the podium, given the fact that the 3 remaining, 2 from Austria, and the best in the world from Germany. Consistency is all you want, it's all you hope for, and as long as Emily Sweeney stays consistent, she could probably take a race or 2 off of the podium. Now the face shield is adjusted for Lisa Schulte. Lisa, world champion, last year finished 5th. She's had some podium positions. I'm not sure if she's ever held the podium on her home track in Innsbruck. Perhaps 2 years ago. She was 3rd last year. I know I covered a race here on the Eagles track where Lisa led after the first run before struggling in run number 2. We'll see if she can keep it together and hold off the American and make it 2 podiums in 2 weeks. Perfect line in the Kreisel. 300s, it's close. Both of these sleds, Sweeney and Schulte, these 2 athletes are among the fastest in the world in the final few curves of the track. And Lisa opening it up a little bit. Still, she'll need to be perfect here. That line is not perfect, but it could be enough. And it is. Extending that lead down at the bottom. You see the surprised looks by all 3 of them in the leaders box. Emily, Anna, and Natalie. They wondered if maybe Schulte gave it away down there at the bottom. She didn't give it away, she extended. George and Christian doing something magical to these Austrian sleds.
Da ist wieder ein super Lauf gelungen und ähnlich wie in Lillehammer. Sie ist auf alle Fälle am Podium. Welcher Platz?
Setting herself up perfectly for the lower half of the track. Lisa Schulte, 2 weeks, 2 races, 2 podiums. She took bronze last week in Lillehammer. She's now done at least that here. This race boils down to the final 2 sleds, the final 2 athletes. These are athletes that have totaled 30 World Cup victories over the last 5 seasons. First up, the defending World Cup, 4-time World Cup overall champion, Julia Taubitz. Originally from Annenberg, Germany, now lives in Oberhof. Taubitz, a world champion, a 4-time World Cup overall champion. Her start time only the 8th fastest. That's business as usual for Julia Taubitz, who then finds incredible speed down below. In contrast, the next athlete to go, Egle, could very well put down the fastest start time. So Julia needs to be perfect down here. She's building that advantage over Schulte. She was 2/10 behind Egle after run number 1, but she's at least made a case for another victory. Another race, another podium for smiling Julia.
Was uns Madeleine Egle, die führende, die Bahnrekordhalterin nach dem ersten Durchgang, hier zeigt.
Curve 9. Julia handles this well. The key to her success is there's really no weak track for Julia. She does well, obviously on her home German tracks, but she podiums on every track. And that's an incredible testament to greatness in this sport. So Taubitz in the lead, Egle up next. As I mentioned, 30 World Cup victories between them. Another thing they share in common, and I hate to bring it up, but both of them had devastating crashes at the last Olympics, and Olympics where they were both favored to win medals. So don't think they're hungry heading into the next Olympic cycle with 2 years remaining to Cortina. It wasn't a perfect start line for Madeleine Egle. Her time at the start only the second fastest behind Emily Sweeney. So Madeleine still building on that lead though over Taubitz to see if she can win her first race of the season and do it on her home track. The 26-year-old from Rhyn, Austria. Let's see this interval time. This will tell the whole story. Not losing any time. So it looks like advantage Austria. Crossing the line, 132.484. Not only does she win the race, Madeleine Egle has the fastest run in both heats. Congratulations, Madeleine Egle, as they say here in the German-speaking countries, super.
Ja, Julia wird natürlich sofort vom ARD Beschlag genommen.
Madeleine's first victory of the season, her first win actually since last year's race in Innsbruck. So by Madeleine Egle standards, that was a bit of a drought. She had gone 8 races without a win, only 2 podiums in those 8 races. So she's broken out of a bit of a mini slump here as Petra Pence and George Hackl, 2 of the numerous Austrian coaches, celebrate at the top. Madeleine all smiles down at the bottom. Always been one of the more emotional athletes in the sport. Large advantage of a quarter of a second separating Austria and Germany, with Austria in 3rd, the USA in 4th and 7th place, with Switzerland another solid result for Nathalie Maag in the top 6. As we count them down to 20, you'll see many of these athletes tomorrow in the team relay as they join their men's singles and their doubles counterparts from their respective nations.
Ja, das ist wirklich schön. Madeleine Egle auf 1, Julia Taubitz auf 2 und Lisa Schulte auf 3. Keine Frage.
So far, a great weekend of racing in doubles and in singles.
Heute haben wir hier Egle Festspiele erlebt.
Victories for the Egle sisters. As we see the World Cup standings, Taubitz continues to hold on to her spot. Egle jumps into 2nd place. Sweeney and Schulte, the 4 of them, figure to do battle all season long. 3 races, 1 victory for Latvia, 2 for the Egles and the Austrians in doubles and singles. The world champion gets a handshake from the FIL president and a teddy bear. The World Cup champion also gets the handshake and teddy bear, while the race winner today, Madeleine Egle, stands atop the podium. The Papa band celebrating with the music in the background. Wow, what a day. 110 sleds coming down this track. Solo announcing not that easy, but thanks for sticking with us. We've still got some interviews to come. All of these athletes speaking great English. Good new feature of our world feed. we revisit the 3 best runs. They were clearly the 3 best in both runs. Holding on to their podium spots, Schulte, not Emily Sweeney, taking 3rd place. 2nd place goes to the World Cup leader, Julia Taubitz. And victory for the first time this year, and the first time since last January, Madeline Egle on her home track.
Lisa, congratulations
down
on the
at the
podium
bottom.
again a P3 here. Would you have expected a bit more, or are you happy with your performance here?
I'm really happy with my performance, thank you. I knew I was fast in training and I knew it was possible to be on the podium again, but I really hoped it would work, so I'm really glad. Thank you.
Gaining confidence every week since that World Championship is Lisa Schulte of Austria. 2nd place to Julia Taubitz.
Julia, congratulations on your P2. The track is a bit faster this year. How was it for you?
I had a really hard training week. I had a crash two days ago, and I was not so, I don't had so good feeling. Scheiße, wie die letzten Male. I'm really happy about the 2nd place. Madeleine has a really good race. She was so good, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Ich hasse Englisch.
Tough week in training, but as usual, solid on race day for Julia Taubitz. The winner, Madeline Egle of Austria.
Madeleine, congratulations. You won the home World Cup. How do you feel in front of your home crowd?
Well, I'm feeling amazing because after all that happened, and especially having a bad preseason, it feels so much better. But the pressure was pretty high today because I know everyone knows what's going on, and it feels like at home either people like looking at you judging, or so it felt good that I made it down, and I'm really happy.
You did great. Congratulations. Thank you.
Well, our congratulations to Madeline Egle. She captures race number 2 here on the EBERSPÄCHER FIL Luge World Cup Tour. Next stop for women's singles will be Oberhof next week. But the next stop for us, another full day of racing here in the Tyrolean Alps tomorrow. We've got the men's singles competition, and the weekend will conclude with the team relay. That should be a lot of fun. So until tomorrow, for our entire FIL television crew, thanks for the great pictures, thanks for the great sounds, and thanks to our audience for tuning in and sharing in on the action. Until tomorrow, I'm Tim Singer. We'll see you right back here in Innsbruck.